Hi, an Nespresso coffee machine. A viewer called Piotr sent me this, and he sent me a few other items as well. Most of them appear to be fairly brand new, so I don't know whether he's bought a job lot of things. In the email he sent us, he said he's fixed quite a few tablets and phones and things, but he did have a go at a few items, but he wasn't able to repair them. So he says, would I be interested in having a look at them? So let's plug it in and let's see what's actually wrong with it. So I'm just going to plug it in there now. And what appears to happen is we get 3 red blinks, then a pause, and that's pretty much it. This button's supposed to close and open the machine, but it doesn't actually do anything. And I've tried doing things like holding these buttons down, which apparently does a factory reset or whatever, but I think it's something to do with the mechanism here, because you're supposed to be able to close and open it, and it's not doing any of that. So I think we're going to have to take it apart and see how we actually get into the mechanism of this. So I'll just switch it off. It actually warms up inside. I actually felt a bit of heat from the inside of here when you put your finger in, so it seems like the actual heater part of it's working. It seems to be mechanism related, I think. So let's unplug it. I'll just get these bits out of the way. I'll take this little capsule holder thing off the back here. And let's see how we get into it. Now I did have a quick look at a video of how to disassemble one of these. And I think the first thing you've got to do is remove this screw at the back and then remove these 2 side sections here. So I'll just grab a Torx. And then I need a plastic spudger. I've got to slide the plastic spudger in here. And then this part's supposed to slide up somehow. Well, something moved there. There we go, it's one side off. Looks like somebody's been at this before because this part's loose as well. Right, that's the other side off. Now he did say he suspected something with the microcontroller, but I'm not so sure. Let's see if we can get this part off. There we go. And what we've got down here, I know, actually he's had this apart because these 2 parts here are supposed to clip in to keep the top section together. So when I looked at the teardown video, that's what it said. I'm wondering if it's something to do with this micro switch assembly here, because I'm sure that's to do with the opening and closing of it. But I could be wrong. It has been known before. Yeah, I definitely feel heat from the heating element in here still. Let's have a look at this micro switch first, because I think this has got something to do with the opening and closing side of things. Looks like it's another little circuit board under here as well. Let's just see if I can clip this together. Let's see what it does now. I'm just going to switch it on. Well, I've held this micro switch in place at the bottom here. And the light's gone to solid red. Well, it doesn't seem to be doing anything else. Right, well, at least the micro switch must be working, because it's doing something different now. Right, let's unplug it again, and let's see if we can remove this top assembly and figure out how we get to this lower circuit board. And where the motor is. Does this bit come off? Yes. Looks like we've got quite a few wires coming down the bottom here as well. I'm not sure where they go. Right, let's see if we can remove this top section then. Or do you have to remove all this bit first? Yeah, that heater's definitely warm, I can feel that there. Well, at least we know the heater's working. And I can definitely see, I'll just try and zoom down a bit there, so you can have a look. There's definitely another circuit board just down here. And that's where the microcontroller connects to. So I'm just wondering if there could be a problem on there, like something that switches the motor in and out for the mechanism, or whether the motor could have gone open circuit or something perhaps. Or it could just be mechanical, that the motor's jammed. I'm not sure how we get into that part. I can't see another Torx down here. I don't know how far anybody's stripped one of these things down before, but I can't even see the motor. It must be buried on the inside here. Right, I'll just zoom out for a moment. I'm just going to have a quick look just to see if I can find any instructions on how to disassemble this a bit more. So I've just put the little switch cover plate thing back on there. And I had a search on the internet and I came across Vince's second channel. That's my mate Vince, by the way, is another YouTuber. And he's got another channel called No Waffling where he disassembles one of these. And I noticed that it looks like the motor is round about this area. I'm not sure whether you get to it from that way or not, but you can remove the bottom and you can sort of see it. So I'm going to try and do that. Let's see. It looks like, yeah, it's definitely been off this before. Let's flip this over. That's that bottom plate off. Right, so I can see the motor there. I can't exactly see where the wires go into it. It looks like it could be these ones here. Let's try and zoom down a little bit. It's a bit hard to tell. I'll get this pipe out of the way. So I'm not sure whether those are the wires for the motor there or not. That's definitely the motor. That looks like a little flow sensor. They've normally got a little wheel in there with a little electromagnet and a reed switch. And as that turns round, it sends a pulse. So the microcontroller knows that there's actually fluid going through it. Doesn't really give them much else, this, does it? I wonder if I can take this bottom part off by these screws. I'll just zoom out a fraction. I mean, I'm assuming it's something to do with the motor or mechanism. I mean, it could just be something to do with the microcontroller or even the switches on there. If the opening switch isn't working, let's say, it might give similar symptoms. But we'll investigate that part shortly. Just flip this back over. Unplug that. I seem to have a lot of wires going up this side of the unit. Now that's on the circuit board, it's got written pump. So those two wires are for the pump. So that's those two ruled out. I'm seeing if I've missed any other screws here. Looks like it's stuck on the mains cable now. Let's Let's see if we can get that bit unplugged. Does this bit come off? Yes. And this is unplugged, by the way, just in case anybody was wondering. And so it doesn't give her a very good view of things. It's a pity that pipe wasn't a bit longer. I might have been able to get this part to move a bit more, but unfortunately not. I see a little opto sensor around there, which I've just noticed. If I just zoom in down here, let's see if I can get that in shot. Yeah, so on the back of the motor here, let's find something to point with. It looks like we've got a little, a little plastic thing there. I don't know if you can just see that. You can see the opto sensor there that actually goes through. Let's see if I can find a light just to shine on there a bit better. There you go, you can see a little plastic fin on the back of the motor, and then there's an opto sensor there, so it can count how many revolutions that the motor's travelled through. So it knows when it's closed and when it's opened. I guess that's the way that works. I'll hold this in position while I'll actually see if I can turn that. Right, so the motor's free anyway, because I've just turned that a little bit there. I just wanted to check that the motor hadn't seized or anything like that. There's a pity I can't find the wires that go to the motor, or what colours they are even, because then I can try putting some power in with the bench power supply and see what happens. So if this is a DC motor, I guess there must be some kind of H bridge somewhere, which would probably be on that with our circuit board there. If we can figure out how to get into that. Let's see if I can try and work out those wires there. Is that one there? It looks like it could be green. It looks like one of them could be a green wire there. The thing is, I don't even know where they go to. They just disappear into this middle circuit board. That's under here. So I think that's still what we need to get to. Let's see if I can get this top part off, and then we'll try and work down. I think that's going to have to be the way to do it. No, I did watch a bit of a tear down on these, but it still doesn't look the easiest thing to do. Alright, perhaps it might need to take that bit off. So unplug this part. I've got a pipe here, which I don't think I'm going to be able to remove. Oh, I've got bits falling out and all sorts now. This white part just fell out. Right, I'll try taking these screws out here. Right, there's a little plug here. I'm just going to unplug these couple of little plugs. Just at the back there's a little black one. There we go. There's ribbon cables and all sorts in here now. And a lot more of electronics in here. I'm just going to unplug this little ribbon cable. I've got no idea what it's for. There's some kind of sensor board there. I'm not sure what that is. Right, so what have we here then? Right, let's zoom down a bit. I don't know if anybody's ever stripped one down to this far before. Not that I've seen on YouTube anyway. Right. So, bridge rectifier. We've got a couple of mains caps. Is it another mains cap there possibly? Little switch mode power supply by the look of things. Yeah, because there's a little switch and transistor or IC. Looks like we're an STM microcontroller. And a few opto isolators here. And I think that might be the motor output here. These two wires here. Let's take this board out and we'll have a look at it. See if this board, yeah, it looks like it just unclips. That's the sensor wire for that micro switch. Another wire. That must be the mains input at the back here. And it feels like we've got another wire somewhere else. Stopping it from moving. There's another cable plugged in under here, which looks a bit awkward to get to. Let's hope there's no power in these caps. I'll just zoom out a little bit. Right, the board is free. Ah, good, it's got some stuff written on here. Let's just zoom down a bit. I'll wait to find out what some of these connectors are for. So, position switch, that's that micro switch. That was at the side that I first looked at. MMI, I'm not sure what that is. NDC, so temperature sensor. Gate control. Unless that's the motor, that's what they're calling for that. That's what they're calling that, I guess. So yeah, gate control, I think that's the motor output. Oh no, it mightn't be. Ah, there we go, lift, that's the motor control. That's what I thought was the motor. Because it's got a green wire going to it and a different colour wire, so we'll be to test that motor now by either using the bench power supply and see if it moves, or would be to measure the resistance of it. Flow meter, so that's the little meter that I said at the bottom. Diag interface. I don't know what RLB is. That's that little ribbon cable that went to the other board. A 7.4 series chip there, some kind of gate. I can't quite see the number on that one. But from its position, I suspect it could be some kind of motor driver chip. Looks like a C3025LS. I'll have to look that one up. And there's pretty much nothing on the bottom of the board, just a few test points, no components. So the microcontroller is an STM862D. And that looks like the switching IC. So it's an LNK6777E. I normally read chip numbers out and stuff because if somebody's got a similar unit, for instance, and this chip's exploded, then they can possibly see on my video what the actual part is and hopefully should be able to replace it. I can't see anything obvious. I can't see any exploded components or anything around here. The soldering looks okay on that connector. I'm not a fan of silver solder. I've always preferred lead. Right, where next then? Right, so I thought I'd test the motor. So what I've done is I've connected up the bench power supply. I've just got it set to 6 volts at 200 milliamps, and I've just put a couple of resistors just through here, just so I've got something I can poke into this connector here, and we'll put some power on the motor and we'll see what it does. Let's try the other way. I can hear the motor spinning there now. So whether or not it's jumped out of place or something was having the bottom off, I don't know, but the motor's definitely working anyway, so it's not the motor. So I've got a bit better access to the motor now these wires are loose, and you can see the opto sensor that I mentioned earlier and the little disc that it uses to detect when the motor's spinning. So this will either break or allow light to pass from the LED to the photodiode on the other side, and when it's in that position it obviously breaks the beam, so then it'll send either a pulse when it's in that position or when it's in the other position, like that. So there's an even better view of the motor here now. So you can see what colours, that's the little wheel that I was talking about in the flow sensor there. You can see the 3 wires coming up to the top, so now we know what these 3 wires are for. These ones go to the pickup or the opto coupler on the back of the opto sensor on the back of the motor, and then we've got the green and black, which is the motor itself, and we've got the purple and black here. I don't know if that's some kind of fuse or something in there. I just don't know why they've, might be a thermal fuse or something in there for the pump, possibly. Not these 2 wires are for the pump. Right, I'm going to see if I can get this part back together and then we'll investigate a bit further. So I thought I'd just have a look at this little board, just on clips, with the 2 little clips either side here. Let's zoom down a bit and have a look at this. And looks like we've got another microcontroller. So that's 3 microcontrollers so far. And possibly even 4. I don't know if that's a memory IC, or it's a little microchip controller. And it looks like we've got some kind of infrared LED perhaps, and some kind of detector there. So I'm not sure whether these capsules have got any barcodes or anything on them, or whether it's certainly some kind of sensor there. Again, can't see any problems on that. Interesting. Right, let's put this back then. So I was just wondering what this connector was for that I had to unplug. And on here it says, I'll just zoom down a bit, it says RBU motor. So I was thinking, well, there's another motor in this. So what it turns out, it's just down this shaft here, we've got another motor. You can just see the top of it there. And I think what this little board does now, I'll just zoom back out of action. It looks like this whole section spins. I mean, I've never worked on one of these before, so I'm not sure how they actually work. So it looks like this whole section spins, and I guess this is some kind of speed sensor. There must be some kind of, I don't know, optical markings on this disc on the inside here, and this must be being used as like an RPM sensor, which then sends it back to the main control board. At least that's what I think, because I thought it was something that read the capsules, but I guess not. Alright, I'm just going to start assembling or reassembling some of this back together for now. Let's see, we still haven't found anything obvious. Getting this plug-in might be a bit of a challenge. Right, I've got that motor plug back in. There's another thing I've just noticed here. I seem to have a Hall effect sensor just here as well. I'll just zoom down so you can see. You see, just on the end there. So there seems like there's a Hall effect sensor there as well, which must measure the RPM. So I'm not sure whether that other board does measure the RPM or not. Now I've just coupled the board back up, and I've just got the bench power supply on this motor connector as well, just to test the mechanism. So if I put power to the motor there now, you see going that way. I'll just swap these leads around. So we know the motor's okay, and mechanically the mechanism's okay. So we can rule that out for now. So I thought I'd just check these couple of inductors here that come from this H-bridge IC going to the motor, just in case they're open circuit, but let's see if I can get the wires on properly there. So they measure about 15 ohms each. Well, I haven't found anything up there yet, so I'm going to try and reassemble it, and then we'll try it again and see what happens. See if there's see if we've disturbed something, or unplugging something and plugging something back in's made any difference. Get this little ribbon cable back in. Plug that motor back in as well. Make sure that's sat in the right place as well, because there's a little groove in the motor. Right, plug these little plugs back in the back here. Yeah, it looked a bit intimidating this to pull apart at first, but this is not so bad now. So I'll clip this lid back in, because I didn't actually have to take that bit off. I'll try that in a moment. And I need to plug the pump wire back in, which is over this side. I'm sure that these two white bits to go back in, but they can go in from the bottom, so I'm not worried about those at the moment. So this might be a bit hard to diagnose with not having another one to compare with, but I think that's everything plugged back in. So I'm just going to switch it back on, just zoom out a bit. I've got a green flashing light now. I don't know what that means, it's heating up or something, but it doesn't seem to be opening or closing still. I'm going to have a look at this top bit. I just want to check that those switches are actually alright. I should have possibly done that in the first place, but let's have a look at this top bit, see if we can figure out how that comes off. Well, it's heated up. Right, let's see if I can get this top part off. One moment, please. Right, got the top bit off. I'll just untangle my leads a sec. Let's just go on to continuity. And it looks like the red wire is the common on these micro switches, because it goes from here into there and into there. I'm not sure which switch this is, whether it's up or down. That's the up switch. And that's the down switch. Right, the switches are okay. That connector looks, just zoom out of fraction. That connector looks properly soldered. Right. Kind of scratching my head on this one so far then. That must be a programming header for programming the microcontroller. We've got 3 volts, ground, reset, and SW in, I think that is. Right, so bit stuck on this one at the moment. Something a little bit unrelated here, just as I've just noticed, is this must be the triac for switching the heater on and off, because it comes from the heater here, goes down into it, the neutral comes in here, and then the gate pin seems to go on this green wire here, which then gets fed into the microcontroller. So that's how the heater's turned on and off on this triac here. Not actually mounted on a circuit board, just mounted on the side of the heater. Right, I've just got it set up on the bench here, just so I can actually move the switches and things without it all being assembled, just to see what happens with this motor here. I'll just switch it on. I've got some red flashing lights again. Okay. I'll actually just move the motor there. Let's just, what happens if we press this? That's made the lights stop, so hold on there. Let's just keep this micro switch pressed. Interesting. Well, it's the first time I've seen the motor move. Let's just try it now. Well, it did move again there, but it only moves for literally a second or so, and then it thinks it's jammed. So I'm wondering, we've got this optical sensor pickup thing on the back of the motor that checks the motor rotation. Now, if it's not getting a signal from there for some reason, whether the opto isolator's failed or whatever, or there's a break in the wire possibly, I think this is the sort of symptoms we might get. So I'm wondering if there's a problem with that encoder thing on the back of the motor. I wonder if I can take the top off and then perhaps measure the voltage on the output of the sensor while we're rotating the motor, perhaps. There's something like that, to see if we're actually getting a pulse out of that optical encoder. Right, I'm just going to pull the top back off again. I'm going to hook up the meter and whatever and see if we can test that somehow. So I'll just go onto those 3 pins. We do get a reading on the LED. I don't seem to be getting anything on the yellow wire, which would be the signal. Not getting any reading at all there. Even between the red wire and the yellow wire, we're just not getting anything. That's just me just checking my meter there, but so I think that may be the problem. So I'm going to see how we get this sensor out. And it would make sense if it's not getting the signal from the sensor, why it's jamming up pretty much, or I think it's jammed pretty much straight away as soon as it moves the motor, because it's not getting the pulse to say that the motor's moved. I'm not sure how this sensor comes out. Does it go at the bottom? Oh, there we go. That seems to be a catch on it. Right, let's just zoom down a bit. I have to move things along slightly. I think there's a number on there, but I can't quite make it out. Let's try and zoom in a fraction more. So it looks like 1330411. If there's anything on the other side of that. Omron, I think that says. Right, I'm going to see if I can find a data sheet for this sensor, and then we'll see if it's faulty or not. Right, so this optocoupler appears to be an ESX1330. So what I've done, I've just coupled everything up, just very loosely here. I actually haven't coupled everything up, I've just connected up the bare bones just to get this thing powered on. So I'm just going to plug it in, and we'll just switch it on. Right, that's the red lights on there. And let's see if we get voltage to this opto sensor. So we've got a black wire here and a red one, so I believe they're power. And we're getting 1.1 volts to the LED, and on the data sheet it says up to 1.3, so I would think that's right. Might actually be to see that with the phone camera or something, to see if the LED's lit up here. And this yellow pin should be the output. Now at the moment it's pulled up to 3.3 volts. So if we break this beam, so I'll just hold it here and try and get my probes back in. Just like so. So I've got 3.3 volts there. If I break this beam, just using my spudging tool here, you can see it's not changing. It's still 3.3 volts. That should be changing to 0 when we break the beam, and it isn't. I've noticed I've got a bit, I wonder if it's just a dry joint on this, because when I'm wiggling it here, I've just put pressure on it there. It could just be my leads on my meter here. Yeah, when I'm wiggling it there, it seems to go on and off. I'm pretty sure that opto sensor's faulty. I might just try reflowing it just to see if that makes any difference. But I think that's the problem. I'm almost certain of it. So, right, I'll just try reflowing these and then we'll try it again just to see. I'll just disconnect this a sec. I'll just zoom down a bit. Let's grab a bit of solder and a little bit of flux. I mean, the solder joints should actually look okay on this, but you never know. I'll just do the same on the other side. I'm just going to add a bit more flux on the other side. Right, let's plug this in and see if it does anything different. I'll switch it on again. And we'll go on ground and the signal wire. Yeah. Well, I've got 3 volts on there now. Well, it is changing, but I don't think that's still right. I would have thought that would go back up to 3 volts. Yeah, I definitely think there's something not right with that opto sensor. Right, leave it with us and I'll see what I can do. See if I can find a replacement or something. Right, so I've just noticed this sensor is actually cracked just here. So what I've done, I've removed the whole sensor, just checked, and it wasn't soldered very good underneath here, so I've just resoldered it all, put it back on, resoldered it. So let's give it another try. I'm just gonna go back on here now. I'll just switch this on, so if I go onto the centre pin, I've just got a bit of plastic here, I'll just shove that in. Hey! There we go, 3.2, and we'll remove the bit of plastic. 0. 3.2. 0. So I think this is actually working now. So I'm just going to start reassembling it and then we'll see what it does. Right, I'm just going to unplug it from the mains first. Let's give these capacitors a few moments to discharge. So I'm pretty sure that's what the problem has been. I mean, it kind of fits with all the symptoms I had. Now I actually understand how the machine works. I suppose that's the problem if you're not sure how something works and you've never worked on something like this before. It's just figuring your way around it first, I suppose. Let's see if we get this sensor down there. So I guess this has been faulty from the factory. One little sensor. Get these wires back around there. So if anybody else has a one with this flashing light problem, I kind of know where to check, because I couldn't find any other videos on anybody else that had this sort of problem with one, so this may well be the first. Let's just check that little thing goes through there okay. I'll just zoom down a bit so you can see a bit better. So there's the little bit of plastic there that goes through the sensor. Right, I'm just going to flip this upside down a second. And to remove this whole pump assembly, there's only 3 screws that you've got to undo. That get you to the motor and things. I mean, you've obviously got to undo these wires, so you've still got to undo the top bit, but let's try and locate this back in its correct place. I think that's it. Right, let's see if we can get these wires and all that back where they went now then. Yeah, that must be the thermal cutout or something, because the board wouldn't power up when this was unplugged. Right, just need to lift this up so I can plug this motor plug back in, which was a bit of a nightmare. Just gonna try line it on its side, see if I can do it any better. Or maybe not. There's just not much room on the cable to actually get it plugged in, that's the problem. There we go. Right, so the board clipped back in place. So plugging all the other connectors and that back in now. Right, so that all plugged back in. There's this wire here to go back in under here. Right, I can get this top section back on now. I need to plug this little ribbon cable back in as well still, so I'll just do that now. So I understand this a lot better now, this machine, seeing as I've pulled it apart. I suppose that's one of the good things, is, you know, you'll learn something new every day, as I say. I need to put some screws back in the top now, don't I? Right, so that's all that bit. I still need to figure out how this top bit goes back on though, which could be quite fun. Let's try and get this on the mat a bit more. Now I'm just going to unplug this board so it's not swinging around. I'll put this bit on last. I'm not sure why that bit doesn't want to go down. Actually, there it is. I'll let these 2 guide bits go up here somewhere. So I'm not sure if they need to go in first. Let's do the one at the other side. Still doesn't quite want to sit down properly this side for some reason. I don't know why. It just seems like a bit like something's not sat quite right. I'm not sure what. Let's get this bottom bit back on now. Right, what else was there? There's this little back cover thing to go on the electronics here. Something like that. Right, we need to plug this cable back into the PCB, which goes under here. Let's try and put that round the right way. There we go. Right, now I need to try and figure out where these springs and things go now. I might have to have a look back at one of the videos just to see how this top part clips on properly. So now there's a spring goes in here, like so. Right, I'll see how this top part clips on. Right, let's see if we can get this other part in now then. So I'm going to slide this under here. And hopefully that bit should clip in somehow, but it doesn't want to. One of the teardowns, I know they're taking this part off first, so I don't know whether I need to take that off to get this part back on. Actually, I think that might be it. Right, where did this go again? Let's make sure that seals all the way around properly. Right, now before I put the lid on, I'm just going to give this a quick try. I'm just going to see if it opens and closes as it should before we go any further. So let's see what it does now then. I've got the three blinking red lights again. So I'm not sure if I've got to reset this somehow. Let's try holding that little micro switch in first. Well, it did something there. It did definitely move. So how do we close it? Let's try powering it off and on again and see if that does anything. Unless it senses when the capsule's in and doesn't let you close it with... No, surely not. Right, so when I press up, I can hear the motor going. But nothing's happening when I press down. Have we got more problems with this then? Right, I've just manually wound it all back so it's closed now, just to see if it opens okay. We've still got a flashing red light. So that should be in its home position now. Why has it gone green now? Beginning to be a bit of a nightmare, this one. I thought we had it sussed with that sensor, but I guess not. Now why sometimes is it working green and sometimes it's coming up fail? Here the motor trying to go there, so unless it is indeed physically jammed now with something else. And why won't it go down still? Right, I'm not sure what to do here now then. Is it something to do with the... It wouldn't error? I'm just trying to think of something to do with the motor controller then. Like something to do with the H-bridge possibly. Because I've never seen it go down, it's always seemed to try to go up. And this is the home position sensor. So you would think it would try and close instead of trying to open more, but it's always trying to open more. Definitely turned into a bit of a head scratcher, this one. Well, I was messing around with the control board where the buttons are, and it didn't seem to be responding, but when I tapped it, it seemed to start responding again. So I'm not sure whether this connector might need a bit of solder on it. I don't know if it's just a bad connection on here. I'm just going to add a bit of flux and then try just to retin these just to see if it makes any difference or not. They don't look overly bad, but I'm kind of running out of ideas at the moment. So I'm adding a bit more flux onto that one. Right, let's see if that makes any difference. Right, I think I might have made some progress. So, these are the micro switches that go to the lever. And I've traced through what this connector does here. We seem to have power, clock, data, and that's for the microcontroller that controls the LEDs. Then we've got ground. Then we've got the up and down buttons, which are these two here, which go to the lever on the front. And then we've got this pin here, which is this on-off switch. And I've even tried resoldering the chip here, just went over that, but it didn't make any difference. But what I've just found here is if I just get a ground on this board, and then I'll try to go to this pin, for instance. Now this should be the down pin. Might be a bit tricky to press the button at the same time by holding the probe on. Nothing on that one. Pressing both micro switches. On this one. So that's that switch. I'll try the other switch, which should be on this pin. I don't get anything. If I go straight on the back of the connector here, it should be that yellow wire there. And this one should be the green one. We'll go back to the yellow wire, which is that pin there. We've got continuity. Now if I look at this connector here, I said it seemed to be not working properly when I was knocking it and jiggling it about. It just seemed to be acting randomly. Well, if we look at this pin here, that doesn't seem to be making proper contact there. You can see it moving. And it seems to be a bit further back as well. So I'm fairly sure that's what the problem is. Or one of the problems. There, I've just pushed it and it's gone further in there now. Let's just try that again. I'll just go on to the ground pin again. I'll just try and hold this probe on. There we go, it's working now. Try that one. Yeah, that one's working now as well. Right, I'm going to try it again and see what happens now then. All of this for a cup of coffee, yeah? Let's see if we can get these switches back in now. That one was a bit difficult to get out, this one wasn't so bad. These seem a bit of a nightmare to get back in. Right, that's that one. Yeah, this one seemed a bit difficult to get out as well. Yeah, a little plastic peg snapped, that's why. Could be problematic. Right, let's try and plug this in. And we'll see if this does anything now. I'll probably have to do something to maybe on both of these. Yeah, because that one doesn't seem to be going right either. Even though the peg's in on that one. And they were working prior to removal, so I don't know what's going on there. That one's better now. Let's plug it in and see if it does anything different. Well, it made a whirring noise for a moment and now it's stopped. But at least it responded up and down now. Let's just reset it and try it again. Right, well, it still ain't working. What a nightmare. Right, so I've just been messing around with it a bit more, taking it apart, putting it back together again. I might have to solder these wires back on because I think that connection's still a bit dodgy, but look. It shuts. It opens. I can't believe how happy I am for it just to open and close like that. What a nightmare this has been. Right, I think I'll see if I can sort it out a bit better there now. Try and get these wires back on and everything. And then hopefully we might be to make a cup of coffee. Touch wood. Right, I think I'm going to solder those wires on. I don't trust that connector. I think that's been part of the problem, as well as that motor sensor. And then I'll probably have to do something with these now as well, because they're not sitting in situ properly. I might just run a bit of glue either side of them just to hold them in, a bit hot glue or something. Let's see if I can got any of those connectors. Right, soldering iron it's going to be then. I might as well take these back out. And we'll do that with the microscope, I think. Right, I'm just going to tin up these wires. I've just snipped the plug off. Right, that'll do for that. Right, I need to remove this connector from the board now. And put tiny little pads to solder onto. Middle one's just a ground pad, so I could use one of those larger ones to be quite honest with you. Right, so we've got yellow, red, and then green. And I think I'm going to put some hot glue on these cables here just to secure them as well. Right, something a bit like that, I think. Right. Knock the glue gun everywhere. Let's get these leads out of the way as well. Right, well they're both clicking, so that's good. I just want to check that this still works. That means it's warming up. I'll just give it a moment to do its thing. There we go. Right, does it open? Yes. Oh, excellent. I don't know if it pumps any coffee or anything yet though, but I'll put the casing on and then I'll have to get some pods to actually test it, so it mightn't be till tomorrow. Well, I thought I'd finished putting it back together and then I just noticed this bit. That doesn't look very good in the kitchen, would it? So I need to take it apart and put that bit back on. So I'll do that and then we'll test it out. Right, I've just plugged the machine in and some capsules have just arrived from Amazon, so let's see if it works. I'll just switch it on. I'll just have to give it a moment to warm up. Let's raise the camera up a little bit so you can see the light flashing on the top there. You might be able to hear one of the kittens that we've just got that's a little bit poorly at the moment. Right, it seems to be up to temperature. Let's get one of these pods out. Now, we've not used this before, so I assume they go in there. You press close, put your cup in and then press the button, I guess. Oh, it's doing something. Let's see if we end up with a nice cup of coffee, because I could do with one after all this. Well, I've got no idea what it's doing. It's making some funny whirring noises though. Oh, look at that. I'm really looking forward to this cup of coffee because now I've got about 3 hours worth of video footage to edit after this. So let's wait for it just to do its thing, and I'll put a bit of milk in and then I'm going to get on with some video editing, I think. Right, splash of milk, I think. Oh, look at that. Excellent. Right then, I'm looking forward to this. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it the thumbs up. If you want to see more like it, please subscribe. Any comments or questions, please leave it in the comment section below. And as always, have a great day. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the coffee as much as I do.